Welcome to the second podcast of Language on the Brain. Today's topic is language evolution, or how all of this began. One of the most mysterious and fascinating aspects of language is where did it come from and how did it start? What was it that triggered us to start verbally communicating? Bickerton wrote that Homo sapiens probably had no language. We think that it developed 50,000 years ago, but it was probably much earlier than that. We know that there was some sort of proto-language, although as there are no records of it, we can only theorise on what it looked and sounded like, and we can see this in Proto-Indo-European, for example. Linguists tend to believe that a selective pressure of some kind triggered the development of language. This was most likely connected to the simultaneous evolution of cognition, although few can agree on what this connection actually was. And as you can tell, it's impossible to know for sure, but it's fascinating to hypothesise. Of course, we have limited knowledge about this, and there are several views as to how it began, but I'm going to focus on a theory by Alison Ray, who wrote that proto-language started with a small inventory of phonetic sequences which had agreed interactional purposes. So the minimal amount possible with no grammatical aspect, just lexical things that would be of use in the present. An example of this, Ray writes, could be the phrase tabima, meaning give her that, and kumapi, meaning share this with her, the common aspect of these two phrases being the syllable ma. Over time, the pattern could emerge that ma could mean her, and over time as well, this proto-language could develop to include more and more lexical features and eventually grammar. It develops a synthetic system alongside the holistic system, with each existing simultaneously, and this is still the case in language today. In fact, at the Centre for Language Evolution in Leipzig, they hypothesised that a holistic language system could have started around 200,000 years ago. There's a lot of evidence for natural holistic development and language evolution. This is actually backed up by, for example, the manner in which children learn language, where it's said to develop as a result of both nature and nurture. And many researchers believe that a key to holistic theory of language evolution lies in the existence of mirror neurons. These are the neurons that enable us to empathise, the part of your brain that, for example, makes you feel slightly out of breath when you watch a running race. It's a common belief that this is the missing link connecting non-verbal gestures and spoken language. But a common way to dissect the potential evolution of language is to look at three different evolutionary processes and examine how they combine to result in what the linguist Luke Steels in 2011 called the necessary neurobiological apparatus and embodiment for language. So firstly, this would involve social evolution. This establishes a need for a more efficient method of communication and results in increased social and environmental complexity. Secondly, we consider cultural evolution, shaping the language systems that arise and become common and popular in populations, resulting in increased linguistic complexity. And finally, the aspects of biological evolution, how we as humans were developing, resulting in increased brain capacity. All three of these facets would have simultaneously contributed to the development of human language. But there are so many questions still to be answered. How did syntax evolve? What was that selective pressure I mentioned that triggered the first steps towards spoken language? And once we developed a vague proto-language, how fast did it develop? These are questions that we're still asking and researching today. And as you can see from the fact that we're trying to trace back to something that they say started more than 50,000 years ago, it's probably going to be pretty complex. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this topic, and I'll see you next time.